guys, Julia here. Today is a very special day. It is the 2-year anniversary of my debut novel, The Scavenger. Wow. I honestly have like no words. I can't believe it's been 2 years since The Scavenger, since I became an author. It feels like yesterday and forever ago all at the same time. So in celebration of this very special occasion, I wanted to start a new series on my channel called Gettin' Real With. So I have 2 books out right now, The Scavenger and Missing Her, but there are many more along the way. And I thought it would be cool to do a video series where I just get down and dirty with it. I just talk about everything, the best, the worst, so you can get a good idea of what was going on here. I did a video a couple of weeks ago about my mistakes that I've made over the years. I'll leave that in the cards above if you haven't seen it yet. But this is more than just mistakes. This is the highs, the lows, everything in between. And it's asking the questions to get the juiciest tea on my books. Am I setting myself up for embarrassment and failure? Yes, but I feel like that's what AuthorTube is all about. It's all about getting real with you guys so you really know what's going on behind the scenes, because I don't think anyone really profits from just constantly believing like everything is perfect when it comes to book publishing and writing, because Lord knows it isn't. So whenever I do one of these Getting Real With videos, I'll answer the same 7 questions about whatever piece I'm talking about. So the questions are, and I'm gonna look off my notes for this because I don't have them memorized. Where did the idea come from? The best part of the process, the worst part of the process, funniest story about the piece, my favorite scene to write, the hardest scene to write, and best memory from the writing publishing experience overall. So without further ado, let's jump into the first question. The idea for The Scavenger was kind of weird, I'm not gonna lie. So I had been writing for years, and I remember now we're really getting real with here. I'm not gonna hold anything back. I'm gonna be totally honest. So at the time, I was a sophomore in high school, and I had just auditioned for a show at my school, and I didn't get it. And I was pretty bummed out, and basically all of my friends got into the show and I didn't. And I was like, what am I gonna do for the next couple of months? And I had been writing on and off for a couple of years, and I was like, you know what? This is a great opportunity. Instead of wallowing in self-pity at how I am not at rehearsal, how about I try to start writing like a big project again? And I flitted on and off with a couple of projects until I got this idea. Now, I'm gonna be kind of vague about it because it's like a main plot point for The Scavenger, but I got this idea of these 2 characters, and there was this betrayal between them, and there was this mystery behind their truths that they were sharing with each other. And I just started asking questions, and I was like, why do they have this relationship? Where did it come from? What are their backgrounds, their histories? And as I started to do some digging, 4 characters unfolded, and that became the 4 characters that are the point of views that The Scavenger are in. So I had never like plotted a book like that before. Usually it was like a what if question, like, I don't know, for Missing Her, like, what if a girl had her best friend go missing and like spooky stuff started happening. For this, it was much more character driven, and it was much more like raw and real. It was weird getting the idea for the like climax instead of like just the concept first. It was weird, but it worked for me, I guess. Question number 2, what was the best part of the process? Because this was my debut, really the best part of the process was just seeing it all fall into place, because I had been watching AuthorTube for a while, I was reading blogs and all this stuff, and as I checked off each component, whether it was formatting, cover design, just completing an edit draft, I was like, wow, like I'm really making steps forward. This isn't just a, oh, I want to do this one day thing. This is actually happening. And that was so cool to me. Like I was just amazed at each part of the process. Now, I was shook during each part of the process. I was terrified that I was doing something wrong, but just making it happen was amazing. It was so much fun. It was so much fun. That's why I did it again for Bissinger. The worst part of the process, quote unquote worst part of the process, I would say, was figuring out how to fit such a dark story into a young adult novel. Because here's the thing, at the time I was writing it, I was only 16 or 17, depending on like the part of the process. And I knew that the story would be written in a young adult way because I was a young adult at the time. I still am a young adult, and I'm still trying to hone my writing process and everything. But The Scavenger is a more mature book. I mean, it's about marijuana overdoses in a high school. It's from the point of view of a drug dealer and the point of view of a police officer. It's not your average young adult. In the original draft of The Scavenger, there were 4 F words used, and I really struggled on whether or not I wanted to keep them in. Because here's the thing, there are no hard and fast rules about young adult, but I like thinking about young adult in the way I think of PG-13, where you can have more graphic and intense scenes, but it's not as intense as adult because you have to think, not only are you writing for the mature young adult, you're also writing for the young adult, like the lower end of the spectrum. So your book should be okay to be picked up by any person in that spectrum. Anyone lower in that age range or higher in that age range, it's up to them. But like you really need to consider the younger portion as well. And it was just really hard. Not that I didn't change characters, I didn't do anything like that because like the art comes first, but I had to consider and kind of just tweak some things about how characters spoke, about like phrasings that they used, kind of getting away from the F words. There was I remember one scene with the drug dealer Frank. I wanted him to say the F word so bad. It fit in the scene, and I tweaked it so many times until I found one that I thought was as close to equivalent in intensity that I could get without actually saying the F word. Yeah, but that was definitely the hardest, just because it was so complicated, and again, something I'd never dealt with before. Funniest story in regards to The Scavenger. I've told this story a couple of times on this channel, especially in my Becoming an Engineer video, but when I was selling copies of The Scavenger at a book signing event this one time, this woman came up to me and started talking with me. I was a junior at the time. And she said, she saw like all my books and everything, and she said like, oh, what are you going to study in college? And before I could say anything, she says, oh, watch, you're gonna say you want to be a mechanical engineer or something. And I was like, yup. So she felt very bad. I really didn't care because you don't usually see writing and arts and STEM go together, but it was just very funny because like the exact thing that she thought the last thing I would say was the truth. So that was a very funny story in regards to The Scavenger. Next up, my favorite scene to write. Super easy. So there's a character, Samuel, in the book who has, I guess you could say, a foster mother unofficially, named Nikki. And there's one scene where Samuel is preparing to go to the school dance, and he's never slow danced before. So Nikki takes the opportunity to practice slow dancing with him, and the scene took literally like 10 minutes. It was done in one draft. It flowed so smoothly because at that point in the process when I decided to add that scene, it wasn't in the original draft, but when I decided to add that scene, I had Nikki's character fleshed out, I had Samuel's character fleshed out, and in that moment they came together so perfectly, and they were just bouncing off of each other. There was such an energy to it. I barely made any changes to that scene. It is like, I just go back sometimes and like read over it and just like live in the moment with these characters, because it came together so perfectly. I love that scene so much. The hardest scene to write. If you haven't read The Scavenger, I'm gonna request that you skip ahead because there are spoilers. I'll put the time card at the bottom where you can move to if you don't want to get spoiled, but here goes, hardest scene to write. When Samuel tells his whole story to Catherine in Central Park, and there's the inside of his mind fighting against what he's saying, and he's telling her just enough to appease her, that scene was so hard to write. I ended up actually recording myself saying that monologue because I couldn't get it to sound authentic. It just sounded like I'm just writing it like a, I don't know, like a history textbook. Like this happened, and then this happened, and then like it didn't feel real. So I ended up recording the monologue, and I didn't use all of it. I took out all the ums and likes and stuff like that. But that was a really hard scene to write. Okay, spoilers over. Last but not least, my best memory from The Scavenger. I would say opening the first arc. I used a clip of that in my intro. I never actually released the full footage, but it just, oh my gosh. I remember I actually got the books the night before. I was in a marching band competition, and I got them at I came home at literally 2 a.m. And I wanted to open it, but I was like, I am not gonna appreciate this moment right now. Like, I'm exhausted, I'm sweaty, disgusting. This isn't a good time. So I went to bed, and I woke up the next morning, and I just ran downstairs, and I burst open the package, and I was just so excited, so excited. I just could not believe it, because you never, oh my gosh, you never expect it. You don't know what to expect, and it was just amazing. It was an amazing moment. I will never forget it. So that was Gettin' Real with The Scavenger. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll be doing one for Missing Her's 1-year anniversary, which seems like it's a far way away, but it's going to come very, very soon. Let me know if you have any additional questions you'd like me to have. I'm open to constructive criticism. Thank you guys for stopping by. Bye!